Hello and welcome. Please take a seat, get cozy, and enjoy another cup of terror with me, Stefanie Valentine. Hello, my spooky little pumpkins. Thank you for coming back to join me once more. If this is your first time here, welcome. Thank you for being here. A Cup of Terror is a series of videos where I talk about true crime cases that have a dash of the strange, be that supernatural, or to do with the occult, or just something downright odd. I know we're in another different place today because I'm still very disorganized and I haven't got the usual set ready, but it's okay, we can cope. So today's case is kind of short, very short actually, and seems relatively straightforward to begin with, but a lot of questions remain, so let's get into it. Oh, and another little content warning, there will be mentions of sexual assault, nothing graphic, but I thought I should mention it. On the 22nd of March 2010, 30-year-old Angela Sanford met up with 52-year-old Joel Laver, who she had asked to join her at the Sandia Foothills Open Space in Albuquerque, New Mexico, United States. She wanted to celebrate Beltane, a spring festival. Angela was apparently a member of the Wicca religion. Angela and Joel hadn't known each other for long. They'd actually only met a week before at a casino. Sometime later, a hiker came across a woman hiding behind a boulder, wearing only underwear, and it was Angela. Angela said that she had been attacked, and the man that she was with had tried to sexually assault her, and that she'd had to resort to desperate measures to defend herself. She needed the hiker to call the police, which he did. Police arrived at the scene and Angela told them what happened. She claimed that she had met up with Joel and, they'd kind of hung out, shared beers and tequila. After some time, Angela needed to relieve herself. And Joel apparently wanted to watch for some reason. And while she was doing what she needed to do, he grabbed her. He removed a rope belt from her waist and he tied her arms together. Angela had a ceremonial dagger with her that she used in Wiccan rituals. Joel took the dagger from her after he tied her up and he threatened her with it. She was fearful that he was going to sexually assault her. She was able to wriggle out of her bonds, and to escape the situation, Angela decided to let Joel think she wanted to seduce him. She pushed him down on his back and removed all of her clothing except her underwear. She knelt on the ground over him and used her dagger to stab him 3 times in the stomach area before running away. The police checked out the crime scene and they noticed that there were a few inconsistencies with Angela's story. Her clothes were neatly folded instead of thrown around as you might have expected during an attack. And then Joel, the victim, they discovered that he had a lot more than the 3 stab wounds that she said there was. In fact, the coroner's report stated that Joel suffered as many as 13 stab wounds to his head and torso. During the investigation, a few other inconsistencies in Angela's story came up. She claimed that she was celebrating the pagan festival of Beltane, but Beltane is a May Day festival, a celebration of spring, most commonly celebrated on the 1st of May or sometimes at the end of April. The 20th of March of that year was actually the spring solstice, and she was out on the 22nd, so could Angela have mixed up the festivals? Perhaps maybe getting a little confused when she was talking to the police? Or was she even a Wiccan or a pagan to begin with? Angela wasn't known within the pagan and Wiccan community in that area, but that happens a lot. There are many who are solitary practitioners, and for whatever reason they prefer to keep their faith to themselves. So just because she wasn't known in the community doesn't mean that she wasn't a Wiccan. an alleged former boyfriend of Angela's came forward and said that he really didn't believe that she could have murdered Joel in cold blood. Apparently, Angela was sexually assaulted at some point in her life, and she ended up having a phobia of men after that. The ex-boyfriend believed that it had to be self-defense because he claimed that that was not who she was. She was not the sort of person who would just kill a man for no reason. Could that explain some of the inconsistencies in Angela's story? Could she maybe have had some sort of moment where she was triggered, her trauma bringing on the fatal behaviour? And please, no victim blaming comments, okay? No blaming her for going off with a man she barely knew, no, wow, what did she expect sort of comments. Nothing like that, because that's not right, and we don't do that around here, okay? But there are claims that she wasn't in the best mental state and that she had mental health issues. So that could be a factor for her strange and inconsistent retelling of events. And maybe that could explain why she seemed to just randomly invite this guy along, someone she barely knew. In an interview with forensic psychiatrist Dr. Michael Stone, Angela refused to say why her clothes were neatly folded. Joel supposedly attacked her, so why were they so nicely folded up? Angela claimed to have only stabbed him 3 times, yet he had up to 13 stab wounds. She had no answer or explanation for that, other than, I must have blacked out. So things were kind of in the air when it came to the investigation. The police didn't really know what to believe, and they didn't have much evidence. In early April, though, there was a new development that would really throw doubt on Angela's claims of self-defense. Police were searching through her phone when they saw that Joel's number was saved not under his name, but under the word sacrifice. That was a pretty damning revelation, and that really convinced investigators that it wasn't self-defense and that it actually was all premeditated. Now, I like to think that we're a sensible bunch of people around here. We're open-minded, we're accepting, so I think we all know that Wicca, paganism, polytheistic faiths, they're not violent. They're not evil, they're not satanic, they don't sacrifice animals or people. That's just assumptions, and kind of ignorance and fear that a lot of people have. Don't do any research. And, the media doesn't help. They know that these sort of sensational headlines get everyone riled up. There is no such thing as a Wiccan ritual killing, but the press kind of took a hold of that and just kind of ran with it. Anyway, police were convinced that the murder was premeditated and that, they had enough evidence. Yep, we can charge her. So Angela was charged with the murder of Joel Laver. The case was originally a first-degree murder case against Angela, but in August 2011, she ended up accepting a plea deal, reducing it to second-degree murder. Matthew, one of Joel's sons, he disagreed with the decision, claiming that it was definitely first-degree murder and that the state's sentencing laws were awful. I understand where he's coming from. It must be devastating to have your parent taken away from you like that. So of course he would think that it was wrong, and of course he was angry. Angela's sentencing took place on Friday the 2nd of December 2011, and she was sentenced to 20 years in prison, the maximum she could have received under her plea deal. Because the crime was a serious violent offence, she will have to serve at least 85% of the 20-year sentence before becoming eligible for release. Joel's wife, Barbara, said that her husband was someone who, quote, would offer assistance even if he just met you in line at the store. They had been married for 29 years, so a very long time, and she said that he was a great father to their 3 sons. Angela's sister, Jessica, offered her condolences to the Lever family. She insisted that Angela wasn't an evil person. She unfortunately was just someone who lacked common sense. Angela said that she felt as though she was in, quote, a spiral of shame sucking me down to the abyss where I can't escape. She spoke highly of Joel, and she described him as like a brother she never had. This case, while seemingly solved, is still surrounded by mystery. The thing is, we don't actually know what really set Angela off to violently murder this man who she'd only known for a week. No one other than Angela really knows what happened that day. Considering her mental state, she may not even know herself. So it's all so strange, and there's so many questions which we will never know the answer to. Was it a case of self-defense? Was the meeting purely about sex that ended up going wrong? Was Angela just looking for someone to kill? Why this man who she'd only known for a very short amount of time? Why was she carrying her ritual dagger with her and no other ritual items? The only person who truly knows is Angela Sanford. And just to reiterate before I end the video, pagan and Wiccan faiths, certainly modern ones, absolutely do not condone ritual murder or sacrifice or any violence of any kind. They're very, very lovely people. So, rather a strange one, huh? With more questions than answers. Very short, I know, but another fascinating case. So, thank you guys for hanging out with me today. If you enjoyed the video, please give it a like, subscribe to my channel if you haven't already, and join me next time for another Cup of Terror.